And we're continuing with the 7th chapter of the Pearl of the Soul of the World, which is called Ravenna's Daughter. And we have just discovered that Ravenna's daughter is the witch, the Lorelei, and Ariel is tasked with giving her pearl to the witch. Not only that, she now has a sword made from the pin that was in her ear, which is supposed to go to her, Ariel's shadow. And Ariel is not quite sure what that means. We'll continue from the break.
She? The White Witch is an ancient?
Ariel stumbled, utterly dismayed. All the world had thought Ravenna the last of the race of Oceanus. The ancient lady shook her head. No, child. She was born here on your world. Abruptly, Ravenna rose. What do you know of my people? Little. Nothing, Ariel managed. In Terrain, where I was raised, we called you the unknown nameless ones. The ancient lady gave a short, painful laugh. Truly has our memory crumbled so far, she said, then softly. Well, perhaps it is a good thing. Silence, then. The misty light of the pearl made Ariel aware of every wrinkle in the coverlet, every mote in the air, every score upon the scabbard of the burning sword. But nothing the other said was clear. Reeling, she struggled to collect herself. I know your people came into the world long ago from Oceanus, that the land was dead and you gave it life, that you made us all, and all the herbs and living creatures, that you were like mothers and fathers to us, and shared your great wisdom with us as much as we could understand, and showed us how to live well and justly, caring for us always. Again, Ravenna's bitter laugh. Child, she said, it is not so. We did not come from Oceanus long ago, and we did not create the living things upon this world, but hardly out of... It is not so. We did come from Oceanus long ago, and we did create the living things on this world, but hardly out of love, for luxury, for our own dalliance. We never shared our knowledge with you. We hoarded it and kept you as ignorant as we could. The ancient lady turned suddenly and shook her head, pacing. This world was our pleasure garden, the dark lady continued, and we thought of you, the inhabitants. We had fashioned for it not as our children, but as decorations, chattels, slaves. Coming nearer, she knelt again before Ariel, speaking urgently. At the sweep of Ravenna's hand, the light in the chamber dimmed, the sword whispered, the pearl light glowed. Once more the colored beads of fire darted, but not upon the surface of the pearl this time. They were within her own mind now, swirling, shimmering, put there by the pearl. With a gasp, Ariel touched the jewel on her brow and watched the images dancing before her inner eye. We are a very old race, Ariel, the ancient said, immensely learned, but far from wise. Once our chariots traveled to the last reaches of heaven, but that was long ago. This moon, your world, was deserted then, dead, until we took it upon ourselves to make it habitable. We created vapors for us to breathe. Peoples, animals, plants, members of our race could spend dozens of hours abroad before needing to return to the domes. And so, from across the heavens we came to trifle in our garden. The pearl showed Ariel everything Ravenna described. The great machinery manufacturing air, the world seeded, the first small creatures released. Eventually, the ecology of this world began to evolve on its own. Scientists came then, walking among you and studying your kind. I was such a one, but I dallied too, to my bitter regret. We all dallied, countless of your people are our descendants, many generations removed. In my folly I bore a daughter, and raised her here in New Ravenna as one of my own race. A sigh of despair. Ariel studied the pearl-made image of Ravenna, centuries younger, cradling a fair-skinned infant in her arms. The ancient lady groaned. Oh, I should have done what my fellows did with their own halfling progeny, sent her out into the world to become some great heroine or queen. Instead, selfishly, I kept her, promising that one day she would return home with me. A lie, the one I hoped desperately to somehow make true. But that goal proved unattainable. No creature born here can survive on Oceanus. The pull of our world would crush you to bits. Yet I allowed my daughter to believe herself wholly of my ancient race, and that Oceanus was her birthright. Again and again I delayed my return, postponing the inevitable moment when I must reveal to her the truth. Ariel saw a young girl, barely in womanhood, with the same proud cheeks and high forehead as her mother, her hair the same jet black. Her nose was thinner than Ravenna's, though, the chin more pointed, her complexion paler, the eyes slanted and green.
Oriencore,
Ravenna breathed.
oh, my daughter, Oriencore.
Then came the news. We had been recalled, a great disaster upon our home world, war, a thing not known for centuries. Some of my colleagues had prompted wars among you here, upon your world, that they might study them, but then our own world might one day be engulfed in such a conflict none ever dreamed. Most of us sped home at once. My daughter was eager to be off to join the fight and unleash against those of our own people who had become our foes the ancient skills which I had taught her, but I demurred, nor would I allow her to go without me. No one wanted her. Anyway, I was the only one who considered her human. At last I confessed her ancestry to her. Ravenna's words grew low and halting.
She went mad. Cursing me, she fled and vanished into the wild marches at Desert's edge. When the last chariots departed, I remained behind, searching, but I could find no trace. In the end, in despair, I concluded she must have perished.
In her mind's eye, Ariel saw the ancient chariots leaping away on plumes of fire into the black, starry sky, Ravenna's daughter screaming after them as she fled the city, her mother searching, combing the planet in vain. Ariel could have wept for the dark-haired halfling girl. When the ancient spoke again, her tone had flattened into exhaustion. Those few of us left upon this world had to decide what to do. Messages from our home world had ceased. Only silence answered our hails. All of our chariots were gone. Some urged the building of new chariots, but we had neither time now nor the means. Already this world had begun to die, artificial from the first. It had never been intended as self-sustaining. A handful of us, cut off from our mother planet, could never hope to maintain this daughter's world as before. We resolved to let it decline gradually and see if we could find a balance point. We decided to try to salvage the world. With the aid of the pearl, Ariel envisioned the world's atmosphere thinning and spinning away into space. Whole species of plants and animals dying, people over generations growing thinner, smaller, hardier. And we succeeded, Ravenna said, a trace of animation returning to her voice. Over the years, we bred new species of vegetation that could survive without our care. We trained the Duros to maintain the subterranean machinery that manufactures water and air. Now that the atmosphere had thinned, we could no longer pass outside the dunes without masks to help us breathe. Bit by bit, we withdrew from your people, allowing you to evolve as you would. The beadwork landscape, woven in Ariel's mind by the pearl, became more recognizable, dotted with herbs and beasts and peoples she knew. Ravenna sighed. A point of stasis was reached at last. The entropy halted, or so we thought. Then the witch appeared, upsetting our delicate equilibrium. Only subtly at first. Wells tainted, dams undermined, cisterns breached. The scarcity of water was always our weakest point. We repaired the damage as best we could, but soon she grew bolder, flaunting her handiwork, spreading drought. As our numbers dwindled, she seized every scrap of technology she could, ransacking the darkened cities for tools. In time, she learned all our most unspeakable arts, with which she means to ravage this world as surely as my race have ravaged Oceanus. Ariel gazed at nothing. The images in her mind grew dark. And yet, the ancient whispered, she is my daughter still. Ariel sat in silence, not knowing what to say. What happened there, she ventured at last, on Oceanus?
Ravenna started. An explosion of colors leapt suddenly into Ariel's thoughts. She shrank from the scenes forming there. Plagues, the ancient lady choked. Weapons of unimaginable ferocity. Horrors unleashed to last 1,000 years beyond the lifetimes of their creators and victims alike. Oceanus destroyed itself. That is why it glows in heaven with such a cold and spectral light. Quick with the poison that never ends. Nothing is left alive there. This is the only world that remains. This, my daughter's only birthright. If Orien Kor would but listen, if I could but persuade her to renounce this mad vengeance, repair the world, and come to New Ravenna to reign after me. The ancient lady halted, half turned away. Ariel gazed at her. How can I help you, lady? She asked finally. The ancient turned on her. Crush the witch's army, she answered with such fierceness that Ariel flinched. Destroy her dark angels and lay the pearl of the world in her hand. Ariel started, amazed at what Ravenna seemed to be asking. Was she, Ariel, to convert the Lorelei, as once she had rescued a dark angel? But the witch was infinitely more powerful and more wicked than her unfinished archangel's son had been. What if Orien Kor did not wish to be saved? What if she used the sorcery of the pearl to further her own evil ends? Yet Ravenna seemed so certain that Ariel dared not question her. She was an ancient after all, with knowledge far superior to Ariel's own. I am but the bearer, the pale girl told herself. Perhaps it is not necessary that I understand. The ancient lady paced, moving restlessly. What does the future hold, Ariel? Do you know? Ariel shook her head. Ravenna sighed. Nor do I. Many possibilities exist. An infinity. Destiny isn't fixed, you know. Ariel nodded, trying desperately to comprehend. So Talb the mage had told her once, many months past. She thought of the Lady Sylvia's army, poised at the desert's edge, ready to march. Or was it already marching by now? How long had she been wandering with the witch's pin in her head, and how long healing here under Ravenna's care? The other returned to her, reaching once more to touch the pearl, and again Ariel felt the strange, glancing thrill of the ancient lady's power. This jewel on which I have shown you the past, she said, can also scan ahead in time. I have other such jewels here in the city, and I have sat with them countless hours on end, searching, hoping for a means to undo my daughter's madness. What have you seen? Ariel asked. Many things. Images stirred once more in the pale girl's mind. I have seen your army overthrown, and Orien Kor triumphant. I have seen Irilath putting the blade adamantine into my daughter's heart. I have seen him killed. No! Ariel cried involuntarily as the scene loomed before her. Even though these images of possible futures had a shifting half-finished look, they were not fixed and vivid as the actual past. Still, she recoiled. Ravenna nodded. Your husband? Yes, she said. That served my daughter once. Pain and rage and jealousy swept through Ariel at the thought of Irilath. Desperately, she tried to clear her mind, to banish the frightening image that the pearl now wove there. Irilath falling from the back of the Averclon, hurtling headfirst through empty air toward a great turbulence below. The vision refused to fade. She shuddered. A tear, hot and salty, spilled down her cheek, and we will pause there.